Good morning, everyone. My name is Andi Adkins, and I'm coming to you today from Northern California in Sacramento. And my virtual background is from my college, Cosumnes River College. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And just to let you know, I do have a second monitor. So I'm going to try to monitor chat, and Rachel is also going to help me with that. But if you see me looking away, I'm just trying to keep an eye on things. So we're talking today about making it hard to say no, supporting faculty to adopt open educational resources. And again, here is me, Andi Adkins. I am a librarian, and I have been put on leave from the library for the last 2.5 years to coordinate our efforts. So I am officially full-time an open educational resource / zero textbook cost coordinator at Cosumnes River College, and my email address is there on the screen. We are part of the Los Rios Community College District, which covers the Sacramento region, and we are one of 4 colleges. A little bit about my school. This fall, we had 15,000 students register, and that was a 12% growth over last fall for us. And we believe that that is directly related to our ZTC, zero textbook cost sections. We have about 616 employees, and 421 of those are faculty. So you can see we rely heavily on faculty. About half of our faculty are part-time or adjunct faculty. So it's very important to get those folks involved in initiatives like this. Our student demographics, about 75% of our students identify as non-white. 50% of our students live below poverty or in low income, and about 30% of our students are first-generation college students. We are a HSI and ANAPISI institution, so a Hispanic serving institution, and Asian, Native American, South Pacific Islander institution. Some of the accomplishments we've been able to do over the last few years since I've taken on this project. In fall of 2021, we had 162 zero textbook cost sections. That was about 10%. This fall, we have increased that to 900 plus sections. About 70% of our courses are zero textbook costs. That has translated to millions of dollars in savings for our students. We believe about $7.3 million since we began tracking. And faculty buy-in for OER ZTC work has been tremendous. We have about 76% of our faculty teaching at least one zero textbook cost section. Now, not all of our sections are using open educational resources, but that is definitely our push, because we know that that is the most sustainable method to get a class at zero textbook costs. Some of the key things that have helped us get these successes, the college has put a substantial financial investment into this project, which included stipends for faculty. We used federal relief funds, COVID relief funds, to help do that, and that offered a $5,000 stipend for full-time faculty, and they had to commit to convert all of their courses to zero textbook costs. For our part-time faculty, the award was based on their FTE load at our college, because often they teach at multiple colleges in our district, and the other colleges were doing slightly different initiatives. This included reassignment time for me. I mentioned I've been working on this project full-time. I have support staff to help me with it. And it's also allowed us to do constant support of our faculty. And I cannot stress this enough. This was our president, Dr. Edward Bush. This was sort of his idea to use this federal money, and he has a goal to become a zero textbook cost college. And because we have that support at such a top level, I've had unprecedented access to our administrators who've helped and supported during this project. what I'm really here to talk about today is the website that we created for the project. When I started doing this work, it quickly became I became aware that I was creating a lot of material, and most of that material was being pushed out to faculty through email. And I think email creep is real, and I suspect that actually my name was probably blocked at some point from many of our faculty because I was sending out so much information. So I knew that I needed to have a place where we could have all of these resources, and also to make it available for cross-discipline work, because oftentimes what someone is doing in one discipline might also be useful for others. So what we decided to do was to create a site through Google Sites, and we have Google Apps for Education at my college, and that's where we created this website. So I'm going to show you kind of the front end of the website, and then I'm going to show you a little bit of the back end of the website. We are in California, and many California community colleges are going through a process called guided pathways, which means that we try to put our majors together in categories where like majors are in the same category. They're often called meta majors in the literature. And at my school, we call it career and academic communities. And so that's what you see on the front page of the website, is each career and academic community. And the idea behind that is that if a student starts at one area and then they explore some classes and they decide that they want to switch their major, if they have taken courses in the same CAC, that's our acronym for it, hopefully they will not have taken courses that won't also count for general education or other areas if they want to transfer. So each CAC has its own page, and then each discipline is listed out. And for each discipline has an individual page. At the top of the page, it lists the courses that we know are zero textbook costs and how they got there. So if they're using an open educational resource, there's a link to that. In some cases, there might be material that has been purchased for the course. In this case, there's an example to the Associated Press style book. The subscription was purchased by the department and is accessible to our students in the news media courses. We've also purchased many library ebooks and other material, and so that might also be listed up here on the website. This next little section, we are a community college and we have a state academic senate organization that has an OER initiative, and they have discipline leads identified for many disciplines. And so I've included that information up here, the name of the person who is the discipline lead and the college from which they're from. And then there are resources that are available from that state website. And then as you scroll down on the page, there is a spreadsheet that includes all of the courses within the discipline. It has a link to the course outline. In California, we use a system called CID, which means all of our course numbering is not universal across all of our colleges. So if there is a course that is going to articulate to one of our four-year institutions, they attach a common identification to it, and that's what's listed in this column, so that if other colleges were looking at this website and they know that their CID is for maybe their Journalism 100 course, they might know that these resources could be suitable for them as well. If a faculty is using OER, it actually links back to this website and it comes up here. And then there are some suggested resources that we've listed that might be suitable to cover the learning outcomes for this particular course. And if you kind of click on this, you can open the spreadsheet into another window if you find it kind of clunky within the page. Then if you scroll down a little bit further, I have many librarians who have also helped me on this project. And so they will often create an initial research document for faculty. And this just opens up into a Google document, and it has kind of some standard sections resources that are available from that other colleges and universities are using. It might have some links to library ebooks or videos or other resources. And these, as new information comes out, we try to update these, both the Google Docs and then the information on the website itself. And then there's lots of other information on the website. So we've done a tremendous amount of professional development for this project. So there's many recorded workshops. We work very closely with LibreText, which is a platform to produce open educational resources or to host open educational resources. It's currently free for California colleges. And so we are also, as a district, a member of LibreText under a membership called LibreNet, which offers us some additional support services. We have an events calendar, so I publish all of the events that are happening through the state organization, and then we also organize events locally through a committee. We have a page where we've created Canvas Common shells that have pulled in several open educational resources, and these are all on Canvas Commons. So you can find them on this page, or you can just do a search in Canvas Commons for ZTC/CRC, and all of these books come up. Now, these shells have embedded the textbook directly into the shell, but they also include a lot of resources that are related to my college. So maybe not as useful to other folks out there, but you're welcome to check them out. We have a page that talks about information that is, we've had lots of news stories on this project, and we've done a lot of research related to this project. And so all of that is listed on this page. So I really tried to create kind of what we call a one-stop shop. This is also a searchable website. So, so people can come on here and search for things. Often, I am a librarian, and often librarians are kind of tasked with this work. And so many libraries have access to a product called SpringShare, and they can create research guides or LibGuides. They're called LibGuides. And so often people will ask me, why didn't you do this in a LibGuide instead of doing it on a Google site? And the answer is that just the Google site is so much more user friendly. And all of the folks that we have within our institution have an automatic account with Google Sites, so I can just add a person to be an editor on the site. Whereas the SpringShare guides, I have to actually create accounts for folks. And then there's a bit of a learning curve on LibGuides. They're just a little bit more clunky, I feel like, to make something that's usable and kind of pretty, I would say. It takes a lot more effort on the back end. So I'm going to show you the back end of the site. There are so many tools built into Google site. So you can embed text boxes and images. And if you have source code to do an embed code, you can embed things. They have templates that are already created that you can embed. And then there's all of these tools down below where you can add different things. Like you saw the buttons on some of the pages, that is just built directly into the website. And each page has its own little page. And so I can have folks come in here and help me edit different parts of the pages. The other thing that I would say about Google Sites is that they're just, if you don't know how to do something, you just Google it. So, so it's very, very user-friendly and intuitive. Google Sites have accessibility tools already built in them, so it kind of guides you to make sure that you're creating headings. So if someone is using a screen reader, they can easily navigate through the page. And there's adding alt text images. All of that is kind of built in as you're building the site. I'm going to go back to my presentation. So I mentioned that I have folks that are helping me do updates on this website. And I have created probably dozens of workflows for folks who are helping me. And these are mostly temporary staff that we're able to hire, and they're temporary classified professionals, which means that often they're limited to the number of hours that they can work in a fiscal year and the number of days that they can work in a fiscal year. And so there is quite a bit of turnover. So I also kind of realized early on that I needed to document how to do things. Otherwise, I was going to spend my whole time just trying to continue showing people how to do the same things over and over again. So in the slides, I've included one link to a sample workflow that I do for my workers. And I say my workers, but my colleagues. I shouldn't have said it that way. And I'll just do a little preface. For the link that I provided, I did make everything accessible on the slideshow. So I put alt text and I have captions on videos. I don't normally do that when I'm just creating it for people within my organization. Unless I got a request to specifically do that, then I would do that. But I don't usually take the time to make the presentations 100% ADA compliant. Each one lists kind of a purpose of the task, so they understand why is it that I'm doing this, because sometimes the work can be quite tedious and you're doing kind of the same thing over and over again. There's a little slide that's kind of a table of contents, so if they come back and they say, oh, I just need to do this part of it, what slide was that on, they can easily figure that out. In some cases, I will provide screenshots to things, and in other cases, I will actually create a video that kind of walks them through exactly what I'm wanting them to do. And I primarily use Screencast-O-Matic to grab those videos, and then I either put them inside my Google Drive to share with them, or I'll put them inside Canvas where I can get captioning if I need to get captions for them. And it just kind of goes through exactly what I'm asking them to do each step. And then at the end, they kind of mark off that they've completed the task, and then that's the end of the workflow. I just put a note in here that some of the links in that workflow are only accessible by employees in our district who have editing rights. So if you're going through and you're clicking on things and you don't have access to something, that's probably why. And then resources for building a website. Google Sites has a great help page where you can pretty much find anything, but if you can't find it, just Google it, because lots of people have created other videos and how-to resources. For images, I often do Creative Commons images searches. There's Creative Commons kind of search page where you can search for images or media, and you can kind of specify what you're looking for. I've used Pixabay a lot for images. I did initially use Canva for a lot of the graphics that you saw in here, but there are some limitations. If you're using a free account, you're only allowed to download a certain number of things. And I should have put this on the slide. So another product that I have used, which is a lot less expensive, is called PictoChart. And I can put that in chat. I think it's with a K. And that is just, you can do a lot of the same things that you do in Canva, but the subscription costs were a lot less expensive. And then TechSmith screen capture is what I use to grab images, and you can add arrows or text to your images. You can download them and save them, or just copy them and paste them directly into a presentation, or you can actually upload and get a link. So sometimes you might be on a platform that says you can only provide a link to the image, and that's an easy way to do it. And that is free software, and I've been using it for years. It used to be called Jing, J-I-N-G, and they changed the name a few years ago, but I use it all the time. And then I provided a link to my slideshow. So that is really the bulk of my presentation. I'm gonna just open it up. I'll stop sharing and I'll open it up to questions. I'm sorry, I wasn't really able to monitor the chat or the Q&A. So
we have one in the Q&A, Andi, that says, what kind of support staff do you have? Because I want some, don't we all?
Yeah, so we have they're called classified professionals here, and we have many folks that work in a temporary capacity. So in our district, they're only allowed to work a certain number of days within the fiscal year and a certain number of hours within the fiscal year. So we are kind of constantly monitoring that. We did use COVID funds to initially hire those folks, and now through California, through the state chancellor's office, many community colleges are receiving grants related to our zero textbook cost degree pathway initiatives. And so we are using those funds to help support these workers. And we have also received some strong workforce funds. So if we're working specifically on career and technical education, sometimes we will use those funds. I've been super lucky because I've hired folks that are have been really tech savvy, which I would say is important, that you need to look for that. I have one person right now who actually has been writing some JavaScript for me so we can kind of scrape pages sometimes and compare data that's on pages and make sure that our information is accurate. We are just about to post again for to hire some new folks because I'm about to lose one of my specialists, and we did it under a special project designation because really the things that we were looking for, we didn't have a job description that really fit that. And so we were able to hire people under special projects, and I was able to write the job description exactly the way I wanted it. I'm happy to share that with folks. I can look for it real quick, and you can kind of see what we were looking for when we were hiring. Any estimate on how many resources we have documented? I have no idea. A lot. We have more than 200 degrees pathways because we document local AA and AS degrees, and then we also have a transfer pattern to the California State University system, and then a transfer pattern to the University of California system. And so often the requirements are slightly different, and so we have pathways for all of those. The state of California right now is in the process of merging both the CSU and the UC into one transfer requirement. And so all of those updates are happening right now, and it will be called CalGETC. And it's general education that will be consistent across all of our public institutions so that it will be easier for then we'll be able to reduce the number of degrees that we have.
Our next question in the Q&A is, how does the university deal with trying to go fully ZTC, but keeping academic freedom for faculty to teach with whatever resources they'd like?
So again, we have invested a lot of additional funding into this. So not everything is an open educational resource. That is especially true in many of our career and technical education programs. And in other programs where there's some seminal work that is never going to be OER. So English literature course, if a faculty member wants them to read a very current novel or something that speaks to more our student body as opposed to an old English writer, we have funds set aside and we purchase ebook licenses and enough ebook licenses to cover the entire class so that every student will have access to it. Or in some cases, we are doing, if it's not available as an ebook license, we are doing what's called controlled digital lending. So it is controversial, but we have been moving forward with it. If you've ever used Internet Archive, it's basically the same idea. And the idea behind it is that we are purchasing physical copies of the book and then we digitize that. And instead of loaning the physical copy, we loan the digital copy. And it has to be a 1-to-1 ratio. So if we have 50 copies of the text, we're only allowed to loan 50 digital copies. Only one person at a time can be in the book, and the software that we use is very restrictive. So it's locked down. Students can't print or copy and paste from the page or download anything. It's basically just being able to read the text. So that has been kind of our stopgap as we're working in career and technical education. And I mentioned that the state is offering a lot of incentives for our colleges to create zero textbook cost pathways. And so I have lots of faculty who have actually signed on to write OER. We have that happening right now in our allied health department. We have a faculty member who's going to remix and write a couple of textbooks, and also in our horticulture program, he's moving forward with writing some textbooks, and in our nutrition program as well. I would say the biggest hurdle in getting to zero textbook costs is faculty reliance on publisher homework systems. That has been one of the hardest things for me to convince faculty that it is possible, but it just takes a tremendous amount of work. So there are open homework platforms out there. LibreText has a platform called Adapt. And again, that is free to California colleges. And it is an open system. So the questions are crowdsourced, and you can submit questions. You can create questions internally within the resource. You can pull in H5P questions. They have another platform called Studio. Or you can do My Open Math questions, or I think it's called WebWork questions. So that's where I'm really pushing. Our math faculty have done a tremendous amount of work and have rewritten several OpenStax textbooks and have pretty much transformed almost every class in the sequence to an open educational resource. And they're using My Open Math as the open homework and testing system. I think the other question was related to academic freedom. So it is in our faculty contract that our faculty do have academic freedom. This is not a mandate within our district, so faculty still have the choice to do that. But what we have found is that the more and more faculty that get on board and start doing this, start being cheerleaders within their department and talking about how it really has transformed attitudes among students, because they're just so thankful. Our student population really is an impacted population. And so having faculty kind of step into the shoes of their students and understand that they live very different lives than many of us do. And so $150 textbook really does mean the difference between paying for childcare or a car payment or an insurance payment. It's not just expendable income that maybe a faculty member might think it's worth the investment, but often students do not think it's worth the investment.
And following up on that, our next question is, what have you done to get buy-in from faculty who are reluctant to make this switch to OER?
Well, I think the money really, really helped. The incentive helped a lot. And I think, again, it speaks to the importance of having someone working on this full time. Often, again, it's tasked to a librarian, and they might give a certain amount of release time to the librarian to work on the project. So it might equate to 1 day a week or 2 days a week. But I can tell you librarian work is often project-based work. So even though you're giving that librarian the so-called 1 or 2 days a week, often nothing else is taken off that person's plate. And so really they're just tasked with doing more. I think because I was put on this full time and they really had me step away from the library, and my colleagues within the library were very supportive of that. We were able to hire a long-term temporary to take over my spot. So that helped pick up some of the slack within the library. I just have been such a cheerleader, and I've gone to so many department meetings and I'm on the academic senate at our college, and I'm just constantly pushing. And so even if faculty are reluctant in the beginning, and that often happens where a department will say it's impossible, it can't be done. And then if you can just get a few people on board, they will start to be your cheerleaders within the department. The other thing I will say is having student voices be a part of your initiative is so important, because that is often the most impactful thing, if they can hear directly from students. And on the website, on the research page, there's a video that we produced last year that had student voices, and I would say that was one of the most impactful things. I heard from our biology department, almost every single biology course that we offer is now zero textbook costs. And they told me our anatomy and physiology area was reluctant to push in because their labs are so image heavy and it was just overwhelming. They were in a discussion and the lab assistant spoke up and said, hey, you know what? I would have continued my education if I could have afforded the textbooks, but I couldn't. And now I'm here supporting all of you, but I would really have liked to have gone further in my education. And that was kind of the thing that clicked it with them. And they said, all right, we've got to get on board with this.
Thank you. We have a few more questions. Next is, do instructors update their own material on the site, or only you and your support staff? How do you get all the info about courses, syllabi, OER that is listed on the site out?
The faculty do not update their own information on the site. So myself and the support specialists have been updating that information. And the way that I got that information, part of the stipend was they had to there was a Canvas course related to that, which is also on Canvas Commons. If you do a search for zero textbook costs, I think the class is called Free the Textbook. And the final assignment in that Canvas course, they had to tell me exactly what they were using. So that's where I got a lot of the information. And now we have new faculty that are being hired all the time, adjunct faculty, other faculty. So when I see a new name or I see new people, I try to connect them with others within the department. And then I just reach out and I ask, hey, do you know how you're going to be teaching this class? Do you know what you might be using? Is there anything I can do to support you? That's primarily how we get that information and how it continues to be updated. We're just in the process now. We're kind of reworking the course because we are going to offer another incentive program related to the funds that we're receiving from the state. And that will be $2,500 per course. And again, that will have a requirement where they have to tell me exactly what they're using, whether they're remixing something or using something as is. We're going to try to incorporate some culturally relevant pedagogy within that as well, to make sure that the material that we're sharing with our students is really as impactful as it can be for our diverse student population.
All right, next question. Do you think the necessary technological knowledge in developing such a website can be achieved through individual or personal training and trial and error? Since the skill set to develop such websites can be a little lacking in some environments, especially when you lack budget.
I would say yes, it's definitely doable. And the thing with Google sites are so unforgiving. You can just undo and republish it. You can hide pages from the navigation so that they aren't really able to be found. I would say just create kind of a practice shell, where a sandbox where you can do things. And if you're unsure about something, do it in your sandbox and see how it acts and works for you. And then once you've figured it out, then go into your real site and do it. You could even, once you've created a site, you can actually copy it. So I could have a sandbox that I was working in, but I don't. And I have lots of hands that are in there, and they, I can kind of see who's been in there and who's changed what. It's very, very forgiving and easy to change things if you've messed something up.
Our next question is, who do you rely on to find and or vet the open resources? SMEs, librarians, support staff?
Primarily librarians. And also the state organization that we have, I mentioned the State Academic Senate, they have resources that have discipline leads that are vetting that information before it's posted on their website. So I don't claim to be a discipline expert in anything really, except for journalism, because I used to work as a journalist and my undergrad degree is in journalism. But pretty much, especially in some of the sciences and maths, I will often, if I come across something, I will send it to somebody that I trust within that department and say, hey, I found this. Do you think it could be useful to anybody? And what class would it be useful for? And should I send it out? And so that, just having that open line of communication. But those kind of initial research documents have been primarily librarians have done that work and kind of gone out and searched and done some vetting. I do have one of my OER specialists who is temporary classified, but he just finished library school recently. And so sometimes I'll have him do some of those updates as well. I feel fine about having a specialist do an update if I'm just having them pull information from a site that's already been vetted, like the Open Educational Resource Initiative through our State Academic Senate. I'm fine with having them pull those resources in. But if they don't feel comfortable making a call on discipline expertise, of course, and I kind of want to maintain the integrity of it as well. I want my faculty to trust that I have kind of looked at things before I'm pushing it out to them.
Awesome. And it looks like we have time for maybe one or two more questions. So I'm going to try to find some that others haven't been answering in the Q&A.
Okay.
Here we go. How does your campus support creating OERs? Or does your campus support creating OERs? And if so, how?
Yeah, so we do have a few faculty who are just starting that process to create OER, and they have a choice. They can either take release time, and we're giving them 0.4 release time, which it's kind of the equivalent of two 3-unit courses about. And they can either take that time instead of teaching courses, or they can take it as overload, so they would get that additional payment. And there's different things, like if they're doing the actual writing, what I have told them is, don't worry so much about learning the LibreText platform, which can be a little intimidating. I'm just having them write it in a Google Doc or a Word doc, and then myself and my specialist will take charge of moving that information over into LibreText. That's our preferred platform because it's free and because you can easily embed those into Canvas, and it's the easiest platform if you need to edit something. So oftentimes, even my math faculty have been using OpenStax textbooks, but they really want to edit them and put it in a voice that is consistent within the department. And those have been already pulled into LibreText. And once they're there, then you can easily edit pages. You can take it as is, or you can edit it. And then with images, like I have one of my specialists right now who's the instructor has pretty much created the text within Canvas, but we're going to revise it and move it into LibreText. And so he's currently going through her class on every page and looking at the images and seeing, was it a Creative Commons image to begin with? If not, can we find something that's equivalent, or can we create something ourselves? So that's kind of another thing that I have the specialists working on, trying to delegate those kind of not high thinking tasks, but require somebody to actually sit down and do it.